I've done. First one, Wild Bill. James Butler Hickock, better known as Wild Bill, was a folk hero of the American Old West, known for his work across the frontier as a wagon master, soldier, spy, scout, lawman, gunfighter, gambler, showman, and an actor. He earned a great deal of his notoriety in his own time, much of it bolstered by the many outlandish and often fabricated tales. That's important. Remember that? That he told about his own life. Many of his exploits are known to be fictitious, but they remain the basis of much of his fame and reputation. Then there's Calamity Jane. She left a colorful trail as she traveled the country. She has been labeled a scout, freighter, gambler, a drunken dance hall queen. Horrible description, isn't it? And a prostitute. She, like Wild Bill, was a source of much of the legend that she is known for. Once again, that's very important. And then a little known fact, she was also a wife and a mother and a very kind spirit to anybody in need. You see the pictures of her. She dressed like a man, she acted like a man, she was tougher than almost all of the guys. That was what she wanted to be known as. But she had this super kind spirit. And if anybody was in trouble, she would be the first person in line to help them out. Now, I mentioned in those descriptions the legend of these two. They were responsible in large part for their own legend. Good example. Wild Bill, he did all those different things that he did, but the biggest part of his reputation come from the fact that he was a gunfighter and that he had a reputation for killing a lot of people. It was widely believed, known that he killed 100 people. At some point, somebody decided that they wanted to figure out if, in fact, that was true. So they started looking into it, and they found out, yeah, in fact, that he had killed some people, but instead of 100, it was 7. 7's still significant, right? But it didn't matter that that's what the truth was. What really counted was the legend. He didn't do anything to run away from that legend. He actually embraced it, and that was one of the reasons he became as famous as he was. But the biggest reason that he became the legend that he is now is because of who is buried right next to him, Calamity Jane. These are at their actual grave sites. This is where they are buried. Calamity Jane and Wild Bill, most people associate, the world really associates these two as being together. They were not. Wild Bill was in Deadwood for only 3.5 weeks. They met on the wagon train that Wild Bill had joined in Cheyenne, Wyoming, coming up here in early July of 1876. In mid-June of 1876. They met in Fort Laramie, Wyoming, which is kind of the east central part of the state. And from that point to Deadwood, which was another 10 days, and then the 3.5 weeks that Wild Bill was here while he was alive. Calamity Jane realized that she, by associating with him somehow, could help to foster her legend as well. She was actually quite well known because of how the persona that she had. She had kind of this larger than life personality. You see the pictures, you read some of the stories, it makes sense. But she realized that if she could somehow associate herself a little bit more closely with Wild Bill, it'd probably end up being a good thing for her, and it turned out to be very good for her. She ended up traveling around the country with Buffalo Bill's Wild West show, and on one of the trips that they were on, they were in New England, and a publisher from New York got wind of her, heard about her, and heard of her legend, decided that they were going to write a book about her. So they contacted her and sat down, and they ended up writing a book based on the stories that she told them. Right? All of the legends. Now, before that happened, these two were pretty well known in this part of the country, the central part of the country. But after that, once that book was published, then the legend of these two ended up really spreading worldwide. So the stories that she told for that book, and just the stories she told for the rest of her life, ended up really promoting these two and did a really good job. And if you think about it a little bit, that big portion of the reason that all of us are here today is because of these two. When I moved here in the early 70s, and my brother and I told our parents when we got here that we wanted to come to see this. We didn't know anything about Deadwood, we didn't know anything about the area, we just heard about this guy. We wanted to see who this was because we had heard of him. And it's